Hey, everybody. Welcome to this special edition, the Game Awards nominees. I'm very excited. We just found out what all the nominees are going to be this year at the Golden Keeleys. Where should we begin?
God, I don't even know. I guess general reactions to it. I wasn't that surprised by many of them. I think you two were.
I am surprised by a few things. I guess we should start with Shadow of the Erd Tree. It was pretty funny that before the weekend there was a statement put out about the rules of what could be nominated, which was just sort of a silly way to say expect to see the Shadow of the Erd Tree in a bunch of categories, right? That
Please
was just
don't
sort
get
of
mad at us.
priming people for that.
The thing with it is that's been a rule previously. They've never had. Keeley doesn't really care about what gets nominated. He made that very clear today when he said, like, I don't pick the things. The awards aren't really a big deal of it for him. So he's always been very lax with what you can nominate. Among Us was nominated in 2020 despite coming out in 2018. He never says, if a game's been nominated, or something's been nominated, he never goes, oh, actually, that doesn't qualify. David Diver and Best Indie. Loads of stuff like that. He just lets the people decide. And because the jury is massive, there's not always a lot of curation. People love Erd Tree. I personally don't think DLC should be up for Game Awards. Some people disagree. Enough people that it's on the podium. I think that'll count against it in the overall vote because some people won't vote for it on principle because they'll want to vote for a new game, especially since Elden Ring's already won. I think if Elden Ring had lost in 2022, it would have been different. But this game has a Game Award already.
Tell that to Cyberpunk Best Ongoing Game last year.
But that was different though because that didn't get Game Awards. Cyberpunk came. Everyone wanted to love Cyberpunk. Everyone wanted to say it was the best game of all time. It came out, it was broken. It didn't matter how good it was underneath. It didn't work, so people couldn't say that. And they waited 4 years until it was fixed. The game is fixed. It was a famous line. And then they could finally do it's the best game ever. It was always just a pretty good game that didn't live up to expectations. Yeah. I think had Cyberpunk swept in, in 2077, had it swept in 2020 when it was, up for things, possibly 2021 because it came out quite late. If it had been up for things that year and won a load of awards, Phantom Liberty, it wouldn't have been nominated at all. That was a kind of, you deserve it because we like you and because you've gone through a lot. Elden Ring hasn't gone through a lot. It came out perfect, won Game of the Year and many other awards. And I think it would be taking it away from someone to give it this award again for being Elden Ring. It would be getting another Game of the Year for being Elden Ring. It already is Elden Ring.
I know, but when we look at the category, I mean, let's just start right at the top with the Game of the Year. So we've got 6 nominees, which is pretty light, and I think definitely says something about 2024. Those nominees are Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erd Tree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Balatro.
Yeah, I think really the one that stands out there besides Erd Tree is Balatro, right?
Yeah, I think Balatro's not a strange one because I like Balatro.
I think it's I'm not
deserves it.
Yeah,
but it's interesting.
It's interesting. I think it's probably I'm sure that it's the first time that Best Mobile Game has also shown up in Game of the Year.
Yeah, because there's been indies up for stuff before with like Hades and Celeste, but I don't think they've also been in the mobile category. It's in quite a few categories. I
think 5.
Yeah, mobile, debut, indie, Game of the Year. It was in Direction as well, I think.
It does.
I think so, yeah.
It does feel a bit overrepresented, and maybe that again comes back to what its competition was this year. I mean, I love Balatro. Obviously, a lot of people love Balatro, but I also love Vampire Survivors, and this feels like that same sort of Moorish hyper indie underdog thing and it just, I'm surprised at how many nominations it's getting for something that's everybody loves, but most people played for 20 minutes and were like, cool game, and moved on.
But that's the thing, most people played it. When you have a jury this broad, there's no curation. There were some people on this jury who will have said, Animal Well was brilliant. It was innovative. It did things that I've never seen done before in gaming. It was really cool. There's been people who go for my pick for best indie game of the year, 1000 X Resist, which is not here at all. It's not nominated in any category.
No.
There won't be enough people at the various different websites that are involved in this that will have played that. There are enough people who have played Balatro. It's not so much the case with Hades and Celestial, because I think they're great on their own, but Stray was up for a lot a few years ago, and I felt the same then. I felt like everyone just kind of heard of Stray.
Yeah.
And people like to nominate indies because, it is good to see other games get some representation. A big one missing, I think, from Game of the Year is Like a Dragon. It's 80 hours long, and you kind of needed to have played the first one, and it came out in January. A lot of factors against it. There's actually never been a January game up for Game of the Year. There has been a December game. This is the only month it's never been represented. There's some trivia for you. So I think there are people at different websites who are on the jury who just won't have played some of the potential nominees, and therefore they don't get a chance. And I think enough people will have played Balatro that as other games kind of got in each other's way, people are making choices about, as the jury gets closer, do you play the new 80-hour RPG in Metaphor? Do you go back and play the old one? And if you go back and play the old one, is that old one Final Fantasy? Is that old one Like a Dragon? Is it Dragon's Dogma, which I'm surprised is pretty underrepresented across the board, considering the reception it got when it came out? I think it's definitely a mixed bag. I think we were spoiled a little bit last year with, in my opinion, 3 absolutely fantastic, could represent the best of the decade games, and then 2 really strong ones. And also Mario was there.
And also Mario was there.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
Yeah, that was a weird one. I had to defend that, I remember. And that felt weird. Also, noteworthy, I believe we mentioned this before when we were thinking about if Black Myth would be nominated, but now that it is nominated, it's the lowest rated, I believe, the lowest rated Game of the Year nominee maybe of all time since Game of the Year started.
Since 2014 when it started. This has the lowest Metacritic rating of any Game of the Year nominee.
Yeah.
I think that's partially because it was hard. I think that's partially because it's narratively shallow. I think a lot of people would admit that. It's based on, Journey to the West, which obviously is an iconic story, so the narrative to be lacking is a little bit disappointing, but people really loved it. The gameplay that it's there is pretty special. I know it's kind of become a little bit like Days Gone, a little bit of the other side likes this game. What can we, I'm glad it's there. I think it's a really good representation for the Game Awards to have. I'm similarly happy that Stellar Blade is up for Best Action. I think it definitely deserves that.
Yep.
Getting ahead of myself, but that would be my pick to win it. I think it's really strange to see the Game Awards coming out and everyone kind of will be rushing to say it's rigged in this choice and that choice. I win because Dragon Age wasn't nominated and all those kind of stuff. And I just, as somebody who's played a lot of these games, and despite myself, I have a massive affection for the Game Awards, even though I don't really like the ceremony or the way it's done or the massive adverts. I like the fact that we have a really big LA show for
I'm excited
gaming.
right now
I think it's
as we
cool.
talk about it.
And I like seeing Stellar Blade and Black Myth there because I like to see different types of games up from different audiences. And I don't think it'll win because I think Shadow of the Erd Tree will be up against probably the name reputation of Final Fantasy and the fact everybody loves Astrobot. I think they're the 3 frontrunners. But it's cool that it's on the podium.
It's funny you mentioned Final Fantasy in there. I feel like that is another example of the lack of curation here. I think Final Fantasy has sort of aged poorly since February.
No, I agree. I fully agree. I really wanted to like it, and it never clicked with me.
It seemed like a lot of people don't really like it that much.
A tepid reaction.
It gets worse as it goes on, I think. Yeah. Which I think for people who played it at launch, the people who rushed through at launch are super fans. They love Final Fantasy, love Final Fantasy VII. And some of them didn't like it, but most of them, they just love Final Fantasy, and that's, that's fine. I think as people got through it more, they were like, yeah, I really love it way up to Chapter 6. Keep going. And as they got further through to like Chapter 12, I think Chapter 12 is the big one where it really weighs down.
Really starts to fall off, yeah.
I think that'll cost it, but it's Final Fantasy, and like I say, I think the massive jury will help it in that regard. It didn't help in 2020 with the first Final Fantasy VII, or not the first Final Fantasy VII, because that was 1997, the first remake, but 2020 was a much stronger year.
Yes.
Last of Us, Hades, Ghost of Tsushima, big crowd. Go on, George.
I would have loved to have seen Infinite Wealth instead of Rebirth there.
Me too. I would love to see
Infinite
instead of really any of them.
I would have rather seen Dragon's Dogma instead of Rebirth there.
Yeah.
But worth noting that was last year's most anticipated game.
Wow. Oh,
Really?
yeah, it was.
I think we know what this year's is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that. I love that.
And then Metaphor, such a media pick, such a game critic pick. Not to say, it's Atlas, of course. It is popular, but and may even be the best game on among these 6, but will not win.
I don't think it'll win. It would be my second pick of the ones that are there. I really like Metaphor. I haven't finished it yet. I do see what you mean about it being game and media pick, but again, I like that. I wish there were a few more, not because games media knows more than the general population, but I think there's a lot of people who will watch this, who love gaming, who will be, I've not heard that game.
Right.
What's an Indica? You know what I mean? Like, I think there's people who won't watch Lorelei and Laser Eyes. I don't know what that is.
Yep.
And I think
as someone who Extra Resist could have been one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and probably should have been.
Yeah.
What's our pick? We may as well get to that because we've got a lot of categories to get through.
I think Astrobot.
I've only played 2 games on this list, so.
Now you've just destroyed my point about the media knowing everything, Eric. Just an unqualified gamer.
I've played a bit of Black Myth. I played a bit of Rebirth, but Balatro and Astrobot are the only ones I put significant time into. I mean, I 100%ed Astrobot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think Astrobot, I would be happy if that won. I think it's an obvious pick, but sometimes there's a reason for that.
Yeah. I give Astro 10 out of 10. It's my pick of this. I would pick Like a Dragon if it was there. I'm a little bit disappointed that it's not really.
Yeah.
But of the ones that are there, I think Astro and then Metaphor would be my second choice. But there's, in other years, there's been games and I've been like, Mario shouldn't have won last year. Do you know what I mean? Like that was never going to happen. There's not a game here that could win and I'd be like, nah. I personally am against Elden Ring because it's already won one, but I wouldn't say it doesn't deserve it.
No,
which in a way makes this an interesting race.
More interesting than last year where it was...
We knew it was going to win last year.
It was obvious, yeah.
I don't know what's going to win this year.
No.
Best game direction, exact same 6 nominees. It's starting to feel like there is not a reason to have these 2 categories. Since we don't recognize game directors, it is getting very strange to have these 2 categories that are treated as if they're the exact same thing now.
Yeah, Keeley didn't really describe it when he announced it. He just kind of said it's for how the game is directed. And I would always like a little bit of maybe distinction about whether it's the behind the scenes or the in-game direction, as in how the game directs you through the game and how you play it. In which case I think you could make a massive case, in my opinion, for Metaphor. Or whether it's about the behind the scenes production of the games and how it's made, in which case I think it has to be Astro or Balatro.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's also something we'll never know about 99% of games.
But there's no, that's true. But there's no distinction of that. Like, it doesn't really matter what you know because the jury doesn't vote on that because there's no real parameters on what that is.
Right.
Especially when it's the same 6 nominees, right? Like,
yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. Which that does make sense. You know, if you look, it's often compared to the Oscars. Obviously, there's more nominations for Best Picture. The Oscars is 10. But usually, if you are up for Best Director, your movie's up for Best Picture. They're linked. It's a hugely influential part of how the overall product comes out. More so maybe than performance. There's some stuff in performance that I think deserves it. Should never be near Game of the Year. 2 of those in particular, I think, this year. So I get that it's linked, but I would change my vote. I would, like I said, I would go for Metaphor if it's about how the game directs you as you play it. I think the use of the time, the way it kind of deals with political strife, I think it poses more interesting questions than Astro, which is a very, very enjoyable game to play. But you unlock levels and then you get new levels and the levels get slightly harder. And they're cool. They're incredibly well designed, but the awards not for level design.
I agree. I've only properly played Rebirth and Astro on that list. And
did you not play games used to?
Apparently not. I have a lot of games I want to talk about. Maybe we should jump to indie because I have a lot more to say about that
let's go indie.
category. Yeah.
Yeah, we can skip over stuff like sports and I think anyway.
We will be skipping some of these categories that I think the Game Awards should skip some years.
Yes.
If there are not best and it's just what were the games that came out this year, let's give an award to one of them, which seems to be the case with sports games this year. They should just not have that category.
That's but you could have forgotten the name of it now, which doesn't bode very well. But the beach volleyball game from the people who did Chicory, that could be up for this. That's a sports game. It could be up, but they have gone for like big titles,
right?
And I think that's going to be the case most years. It's going to be
Beastie
most
Ball.
People don't play Beastie Ball.
Oh yeah.
Most people don't play those games. They've heard of FIFA and Topspin being up for it. So I think Topspin was a massive step back. Right? We aren't doing sports. We aren't doing sports. I'm not complaining about the tennis game being up for a sports game.
Our best independent games. Keely said something weird about this is the category that honors the most risk resilient games. I just thought that was a weird way to describe them. From like, it's such a business minded thing. Anyway,
it is. It's a businessy show.
Yeah, yeah. Those games
most
are
value for shareholders. They'll be the next year. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. Animal Well, Balatro, Lorelei and the Laser Eye, Neva, and UFO 50, and these are all spectacular.
Yes.
Like put these 5 as game of the year. My pick is Animal Well, but it's a hard pick. I just started playing Neva, and it's pretty fantastic. But
I really liked Neva. Yeah.
Animal Well for me, it's probably my game of the year overall, to be honest, and that makes it a very easy pick.
Some that are missing here, maybe surprisingly, maybe not, but Harold Halibut.
Yeah.
I was
surprised it's not up for art. That's a really cool game, actually.
Yeah, good for that.
Yeah, nothing for Harold Halibut, and that was such a. I mean, what did it take them 10 years to make that stop motion game? Like, that's kind of a special thing. I would have liked to see honored in some way. Another Crab's Treasure.
Yes,
showing
George,
up.
a big fan of that.
Anywhere.
I did really like that. That's
surprising
pretty high on my list. Tales of Gonzera
and it seemed very popular too, right?
Yeah. It was.
Or at least I thought, but I guess
it came out during a crowded time, so maybe overlooked, but it got a decent bit of buzz.
Yeah.
It's a shame there's literally nothing from that in any of the categories.
No, same with
It kind of sucks.
1000 X Resist.
Yeah.
Everyone should go play.
And we still do not have a best horror category, right?
That's really weird of a year like this one as well.
Yeah, that's still bothers me a lot. I think we should.
The biggest snub of the indie category, though, and I'm sure Stacey will agree, is Thank Goodness You're Here.
That's I completely forgotten that. That I was just thinking 1000 X Resist. Gotta get it. Yeah,
that's a snub.
Fantastically well written, really creative, really. I was going to say beautiful. That's probably not the right word, but so colourful and exciting to look at. Fantastic game. Oh, there's quite a few that could have been in as well because the order design on it's brilliant. It's all bouncy. There's not really one for writing. I guess it wouldn't win narrative because the story's quite shallow.
Best
but the
direction.
Actual writing of the game, I think, is brilliant.
Right.
That's a really, really big one too.
I know Eric didn't get it as much, but that one hurt my soul.
Maybe he's a bit more British, which is possibly why it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't have to connect with me for me to appreciate. I do get it.
We probably should mention UFO 50 as well. Like, the amount of effort that went into that game. I think it'll probably finish up on my list somewhere. I'm kind of between that and Nev, and I've got a couple of other games that I want to try.
UFO 50 is next 10. On my list to play. The creator, or one of the creators, Derek Yu, who made Splunky, which is one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
So it's on the list eventually. So by the time we do our list, I'm sure it will be. Hopefully, it'll be somewhere on mine.
And I would also make an argument that it deserves best direction.
Yeah,
based on the story behind it and how it was made. For people who don't know, it's 50 different games from a fake indie game company, like a kind of like Sega Classics collection, but a made-up one.
Another one that took 10 years. To make. Yeah, that is sort of like the Harold Halibut. Like, it deserves to be recognized because it's something so special. No room anywhere for Still Wakes the Deep, but I thought that was award worthy.
That would be good in a horror category that doesn't exist.
Yes. Would it even be up for it in a year like this, though? Some spooky
True.
Games.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to Silent Hill 2 and my thoughts on that, but
is this our first year that we had the adaptation category?
No, we had it last year. Last of Us one.
I mean, this one's a shoe-in, right?
I don't think so. I think this is 50-50.
there's contenders here, right? Like everything on this list, I just scrolled past it. So we've got Arcane, Fallout, Knuckles, Like a Dragon, and Tomb Raider, and I think it's Fallout and Arcane, right?
Yeah.
But interestingly, when
on.
everyone was nominating this, no one had seen season 2 of Arcane yet. Right?
True.
Like the whole thing's not even out yet.
No, but there were screeners. I haven't seen it, but people from the side have seen it.
How many people was that? You know.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, what are you going to nominate instead?
What else? It was safe to assume, but this one definitely got the nomination before anybody had seen it or had a chance to judge it.
Safety net nomination.
Turns out it's great, so that's good. But yeah, Arcane and Fallout, I think could go either way there. But did anybody watch Yakuza?
No,
I didn't finish it because it wasn't very good. But I saw enough of it to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. The VR category this year, best we've ever had. That's another one where
it was a really strong category. I haven't played them all, but yeah, I thought it was really strong.
Yeah, that's one that can sometimes feel like sports where they're just putting things in there that happen to come out this year. But I'm trying to scroll. The website is having some struggle. So
Arizona Sunshine, Batman, Asgard's Wrath. What was the other one?
And Metro,
and Metal Hellsinger.
And Metal Hellsinger, yeah. Which Metro's another one. Like, how many people had actually played that? Because it's not even out yet, right?
Even Batman would have been cutting it close.
Yeah,
Batman was cutting it close, but Batman is very, very good.
From what I've heard, I'm a non-VR person, but from what Eric has told me, Batman sweeps this.
No, this is Asgard's Wrath for sure.
What?
Because Asgard came out last year, though, didn't it? It was a December game.
It was a December game, and it's like the most expensive big AAA VR game.
It was a huge thing. Yeah, I remember us talking about that a lot. I think it'll be Asgard's Wrath.
The reviews were great. It's like a 60-hour Skyrim style like VR game. Yeah, got a bunch of 10
I remember
now.
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah, so it'll be Asgard's Wrath, but Arkham Shadow's great. The Arizona Sunshine. Yeah, these are all great. No, yeah. All great VR games for once. No notes. And then mobile's really competitive.
Yeah,
mobile's super competitive.
Some serious games in there this year.
We've got AFK Journey, Balatro, Pokemon Pocket, Wuthering Waves, and Zenless Zone Zero.
I mean, if one of those is up for Game of the Year, surely that's kind of null and void.
Possibly.
Yeah, but the recency of Pocket, though.
And it's who's going to vote for it as well. Is that there's a lot of people, I think, who will, now that the shortlist is in, when the jury votes, they'll vote specifically for games they know. If you don't know Balatro, you don't know it. I know I said before, I think it's in because a lot of people played it. But as many as Pokemon?
True.
I don't know.
Quite like Pokemon.
I still think it'll win, but I don't think it's necessarily done and dusted just because it's there.
And Pocket has just
blown up. Yeah.
Really massive. Yeah. Yeah.
Unlike, best debut indie, Balatro's up for both. So I think it'll win debut.
Right. Because it won't win Game of the Year.
Because I don't think it'll win Game of the Year. But I don't think it'll win best indie and not win best debut because I don't think there's anything in there that takes... The only thing that's in both with it is Animal Well. That could win both, but I think Balatro will win both.
Yeah. Ongoing is a little interesting, even though it's, a lot of the usual suspects. We've got Fortnite, we've got Final Fantasy 14, we've got Helldivers 2, first time showing up this year, so that could be a new staple for this category. We'll see. And then we have Diablo 4, which had a very well-received expansion this year. And then Destiny 2, which doesn't always show up here, has been off and on for year after year. But because this was the Final Shape year, maybe Final Shape was incredible, first of all, but maybe it gets some extra juice for being kind of a send-off.
It's the last year, yeah. Like when a sitcom ends and they finally get the Emmys.
Sort of one of those things, yeah.
But
it's always
Helldivers
Fortnite,
2.
Sure, yeah.
Helldivers 2, though, like, as many mistakes it's had, what they've managed to do with that game, like the stories you hear of like all the evolving narrative stuff, I think it's incredible what they do. That is what should be done for an ongoing game. And the fact it's mostly for free.
Does it win every year? I'd have to go back and look.
Oh no, I mean Helldivers too. Fortnite. As well,
Helldivers. Sorry.
But Helldivers, yeah.
But
doesn't matter because No Man's Sky won a couple of years.
That's right.
Yes,
I recall. Yeah.
Apex isn't up for it either. Apex usually is up for this. I seem to recall Apex when
Apex took a huge hit over the Battle Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Their Battle Pass shenanigans.
I agree with George. I think Helldivers should get it.
Best action adventure. There's this is an interesting one. So Astrobot, obvious. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, great.
What?
Silent Hill 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom.
Yeah, the cool thing about this category is only one of them is an action adventure game.
Yeah,
how much action is in Astrobot? Really, like
only one of these is an action adventure, and it's the worst one.
The worst game there, yeah. It's Star Wars, which is not going to win. Yeah. Dragon's Dogma not being here is bizarre, right? I think people tend to split them. If you're action, you're action. If you're action adventure, you're action adventure. If you're RPG, which you're RPG. Is
that where it landed?
A split between them. Yeah,
it's in RPG.
Okay, I mean,
Prince of Persia all the way for this.
So much more action adventure to RPG to me, but fair enough.
Yeah, I think you could make that. I think you could make that argument.
I guess we're hoping that this is Prince of Persia.
All the way. Like, Astrobot is the best game there.
Yeah.
But Prince of Persia fits action adventure more, and it's not in any other category besides, like, accessibility, I think.
Yeah, it is an accessibility. Yeah, I see the affection for The Lost Crown. I'm still gunning for Astrobot. So I don't really have any. As long as it's not Star Wars, which is the only game that should be there, I'm glad. I'd be glad whichever wins.
Yeah.
Best family remains best Nintendo category. I will never shut up about how single player games do not belong in the best family category. How am I playing any of these games with my family?
You don't love playing the Plucky Squire with your family all around.
Super Mario Party Jamboree wins by default because I can play with my family. The other 4 nominees, Astrobot, Princess Peach Showtime, Echoes of Wisdom, and Plucky Squire, are single player games, not family games. I hate this category. I hate this category so much. A category I don't hate is Best Sim Strategy, which has very strong contenders this year. It doesn't always.
No, it doesn't always. It's a weird one.
Yeah, but this year, Age of Mythology Retold, Frostpunk 2, Kunitsugami, Manor Lords, and Unicorn Overlord. Just, games that easily could have shown up in other categories.
I think only Manor Lords did in any other category, which is odd.
Yeah, and these are all bangers. Age of Mythology much less so than the other 4.
I have not touched that one. I've dabbled in most of those. Frostpunk, Unicorn.
You played Kunitsugami, didn't you, Stace?
I couldn't think of the name. Yes, and
Kunitsugami, yeah. I think. Oh, and then let's talk about Games for Impact. I
think it's a cool category this year.
Yeah, the Woke Award. Closer, The Distance, Indica, Neva, Life is Strange: Double Exposure, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, Tales of Kenzara Zao. Hellblade is here and in audio design, and that might be it.
It's in best performance as well.
And performance.
By Jurgens.
Yes. What do you think, Stacey? What's your
I like that these are games that are broadly across other categories. Hellblade is in performance and audio design. Life is Strange also in performance, which I think is great. I don't necessarily think these are the best picks. Neva's also in a lot of other categories. I am never really sure what this game is, what this category is for. So while I'm glad that it's games that aren't all shunted off to the side, that these are games that are in the mix for other categories, I'm a little bit surprised at what's there. I don't see any impact at all from Life is Strange. Like, it has some gay people in it. Like, okay. I don't think Dragon Age: The Veil God is good enough to be up for many categories here. I'm very surprised it's not here.
I agree.
Its whole thing is that it doesn't always do it as best as probably should, but it's one of the most progressive games that I think we've seen. That's why part of the reason why it got so much backlash. Hellblade, I don't really see what it does better than the original. That doesn't mean it shouldn't be nominated, but it didn't have a lot going for it as far as I was concerned. Never, I think, is a really cool pick here.
Yeah.
I like the relationship vibe that it has. Storytelling without any narrative or without any like written language, I always think is really cool. Team behind Never pulled it off really well because they also did Grease.
And then Tales of Kenzara, we've got multiculturalism, which is a fit. But yeah, it's a weird eclectic category that's like diversity, culture, but then sometimes just like,
I mean, Kenzara is also about the whole thing about it. Its creation is about grief and moving on from death.
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful. Like
I think
so.
really
that just muddies it even more. So it's just like games
that made you emotional. I know it's a weird
Yeah.
category. Games that made me cry, all of them.
I know. I think it's supposed to be games that tackle complex social issues. I think Never's in there because it's all about, there's kind of a theme of environmentalism, but it's also about it's kind of a metaphor for your child who's grown up believing. It's about raising a wolf, but Rebirth stuff is clearly not really about a wolf. It's about the way that how you parent something reflects on how it grows. There's obvious issues that are in Hellblade that we don't see in many other games. That's kind of progressive, except it was done better, I think, in the first one. Life is Strange, like I say, I've no idea why it's there at all. And Tales of Kenzara, yes, well, it does represent other cultures. I suspect the reason it's here is probably closer to what George said, in that it tackles themes like grief in ways that games don't. Most games, they have a grieving figure and they kill people to make themselves feel better. Like these are key themes in things like The Last of Us, but I don't think that's handled in a very games for impacty way. Because it's done in a very gamified way. Now, obviously, The Last of Us is brilliant. It won the actual game award. But I think this category feeling like it feels more like it's in line with the other categories this year, which I like to see. Even if I don't necessarily think some of the games should be there, I feel that way about most of the categories. So that's award shows for you. I think it's a big miss that Dragon Age isn't here.
I agree. Let's talk about if we have any more things that are strangely absent from any category. I thought we might see Pepper Grinder in action.
Yeah, I would have loved it. Or an indie. That would have been cool.
I thought we might see Alan Wake, some combination of probably Lake House in Best Narrative. Best Narrative we didn't touch on, but it's Rebirth, Like a Dragon, Metaphor, Hellblade 2, and Silent Hill 2. But I thought Lake House could have been there. Any other ones stand out to you that don't show up here?
Sonic X Shadow Generations. I know
for Best Family.
for Best Action Adventure, if we're just chucking it wherever. But I think the Shadow portion of that is one of the best Sonic games there's been in a while.
Stacey, do you have any?
No, I'm kind of rolling through my Game of the Year list, and most of them are either there, because it's Like a Dragon, I know it's not up for Game of the Year, Astro, Balatro. Then we've mentioned 1000 X Resist, thank goodness you're here. There's a few games that I've really liked this year, like Ete, that I was never going to be here. It's just a game that I've enjoyed. There's not a game that I think has been completely snubbed and not here. There are some places where I'm surprised at individual games not being up for things. But I can't think of a major game where I think, nah.
Just 1000 X Resist is your big
that's here. My big one to not be at the show at all. But when George mentioned it, I'm more surprised that Thank Goodness You're Here isn't there. I like 1000 X Resist more, but I didn't really ever have a chance. It might have got up for indie, like maybe. But Thank Goodness You're Here I thought could have been in a few categories.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that about covers it, unless you guys have anything else to touch on. Any other categories to mention?
Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is up for best fighting. That's
Best
cool.
fighting.
It's going to lose to Tekken, but it's not.
it'll lose to
It's
Tekken.
like it's not really a fighter in the sense. Obviously, you do fighting.
Oh, we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
No,
That'll take
come
forever.
on.
It's a fight. You punch people in their health bar. It's a fighting game.
It's a
Well, then
fun
it should
game.
win. But also, Tekken's a good runner-up.
Tekken's going to win that one.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We will have to cover the actual winners when they come out. So
In
we'll be
less
back
than
for
a
that.
month.
And we want to know your thoughts on the nominees as well. So leave us a comment down below. But otherwise, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no spaces.